Does everything have a bright side to it? Of course. It doesn't always outweigh the negatives, but everything has a bright side to it. This makes happiness a choice. And here we say that the discipline of being happy is the ultimate discipline. With that said, welcome to the Ultimate Discipline Podcast, where we meet with people who are practitioners of this exact discipline, and we hear their cool stories of cultivating happiness through challenges in their life. I am your host, Sean Greenspan. Let's get to it. What is up, everybody? I am feeling great today because I'm drinking my Organifi red juice that Lisa sent me. Me and Lisa just started working together, and it's another one of those situations for me where I start to work with someone and I have to jot down questions and thoughts that I want to ask this person later, and then I'm like, you know what? They're coming on the podcast. We got to drop into this. I think in the middle of a deep business talk last week, you were just like, Sean, we have a lot in common. And I was like, okay, I'll definitely make sure that we touch base on this. So Lisa's about to be a professional pickleball player, top in the world. Lisa works for an awesome health company called Organifi, is in Southern California, and is also, I would say, one of the most optimistic, contagiously positive people I've been around. That's attracted me to working with you. So, Lisa, thank you for all of that. And I want to flip it over to you to give a little intro about yourself.
Oh my gosh, well, I think you just nailed it. Most importantly, future pickleball champion of the world. It is my
of course.
absolute passion, but thank you for the kind words. I just want to return them to you. I think from the moment you and I connected, there was so much alignment and synergy. And I think we share this optimism and positive outlook and just gratitude for life. And I'm really grateful to be here today and just to have a conversation about whatever unfolds. I'm sure it'll be definitely rich and full of, for me, a lot of insights. So thank you for having me here. A little bit about me. I've been at Organifi going on 6 years in January, which is unbelievable. Before that, I was at Lululemon for 7.5 years doing grassroots marketing, just really into health, wellness, personal development, growth, and expansion. So that's me in a nutshell.
I appreciate that intro, and I want to jump into gratitude, right? So we were chopping it up a little bit before the call today, and gratitude, that's a buzzword, man. That's a word that gets tossed around a lot. I also think it's probably one of the most powerful words. You know, when I think about gratitude, actually the first thing that comes to mind right now is when people, sometimes if you're around someone that says they have nothing to do or they're bored, I actually think that's like a lack of gratitude for life. And I think there's just there I don't want to say, I think there is endless things to be grateful for regardless of your situation. What do you think about focusing? Obviously, you think focusing on gratitude is important. Is that something you're practicing daily? Is that something that you think is more just a part of you? I want to hear your thoughts on gratitude and how it affects people's lives.
I am such an advocate for gratitude because it completely transformed my life, and I attribute having an attitude of gratitude for where I'm at today. And what happened about maybe 7.5 years ago, I was in a pretty dark place. I'd had my second child. She wasn't sleeping through the night, so I was getting 4 hours of sleep and wasn't on top of it. And there is a really good book called The Happiness Advantage, I believe, by Sean Baker. And he mentioned that gratitude will completely change your life. And there was a practice that he shared. Every day he would wake up and he would write a minimum of 3 things that he was grateful for from the day before. Minimum of 3. And so I found a fellow accountability buddy, another mom who was kind of struggling. And we committed to taking pictures of our gratitude journal and sending them to each other every day. So literally I'd wake up, first thing in the morning, I'd grab my gratitude journal, open it up, and write down 3 things I was grateful for. And at the time, it was hard to get. It honestly was hard to get to 3. I'm not going to lie, but over the years, that practice completely evolved, and I would be writing 2 to 3 pages every single day. And where it ended was, instead of being grateful for my car and my job and things like that, um, I up leveled it by being grateful for people and relationships. And it completely changed how I would interact with people day to day. I would look for the good. And I think that what you look for is what you see, right? And then you start attracting that energy. So I was constantly throughout the day like, oh, I'm going to add that into my gratitude journal. Somebody holding the door open for me. I would be like, this is a moment to appreciate. And we're so busy in our lives, living in here, living our mind, not actually living, that it helped me drop into the moment. So gratitude to me is
Mm.
so important. I no longer actually do a gratitude practice like a written one. It has become who I am. Like today I was playing pickleball and I just took a moment and I was like, my God, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting here playing pickleball. I'm so grateful for my husband who watched our children and allowed me to come play pickleball. And like, it just snowballs, right? And like,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, gratitude is everything. It's,
I thank you for that, and I wanna challenge everyone out there to formalize the practice. Um, it's it changes everything to think a couple grateful thoughts and to every single day write it down. Like that's one of those things. Do it first thing in the morning. Do it last thing at night. Everyone has time for it. It doesn't matter, and everyone has energy for it. And if that eats into your sleep by 3 minutes, okay, it eats into your sleep by 3 minutes. But I I actually think like writing things down, like it's just more of a formal process. It's more of like an energetic thing. Like then if you were gonna sit there and just say, yeah, like I'm grateful for a couple things, like it's so different. I love another thing is sometimes me and my girlfriend like when we get in bed, it's 3 or more things that you are grateful for from the day, right? And say them out loud. And I don't think anyone needs to complicate this, but put your energy into it. Like there doesn't have to be a minimum length of it, but like paint the picture. Actually say what you're grateful for. If you have more things, don't hold back. Like put more of that good energy.
yeah.
Lisa, talking about some of the principles behind the happiness discipline, one thing that I would challenge you to do is pick the habit back up because my thought about it all about like all health habits is that a lot of our modern life is actually working against you, right? And I don't think that's like a negative comment. I think it's actually our brains are trying to conserve energy. Like there's a lot of people are fighting for our attention. So I almost look at it like metabolism where you like worked on your if you work out and eat right so well, you could probably take 5 years off of like still like moving and eating decently before like you'll stop receiving those benefits. So
Mm.
like you probably worked on your gratitude so much that it's gonna ride with you for 5 or 10 years. But like everyone, it's like even when you're at the top of the game, you gotta keep working harder. So that's my challenge for you.
Well, it's funny because I actually, as I was talking and you were mentioning your girlfriend, how you share gratitude as
Yeah.
you go to bed or not. What I've now done, and this is something I think is the next level of having a gratitude journal, like for me, is every day I will send one gratitude text to somebody. I don't know if you've ever heard when in doubt, focus out. Especially if I'm not feeling good. I literally will pick up my phone, I will pick somebody randomly, and I will like meditate on how has this person impacted my life, and I will send a gratitude text. And so like if you really want to experience the benefits of gratitude and ingrain this as a habit, actually send somebody a gratitude text, because
Mm,
what comes back will absolutely reinforce why gratitude is important.
That's awesome. Love that. Anything that's like, I don't know, created in the real world, say it to someone, text it to someone, write it in your journal. That to me fits, again, don't make it complicated. That fits into this bucket of you checked the box, you did the task, right?
Yeah.
Um, gratitude just seems like something that if you're grateful, it it covers a lot of bases. Do you know what I mean? Like you talked about, um, you talked about something, how it relates to being more present. And that's something I actually want to dive into that, like, okay, why are we practicing this gratitude? Well, it's changing your neural pathways. That's not some fancy science term. Like anything you focus on, changes your neural pathways, and anything you do over and over changes your neural pathways. And like you said, like the output of, like, think about this. You write in your journal 3 things you're grateful for or more every night.
Yep.
Then when you live life, you get to see life through grateful eyes because you're training yourself. That's just fun. Like, how fun is it to, like, when someone holds a door for you, to get genuinely excited? Like, that person just held the door for me. Like, they're probably exhausted. They had a bag on their shoulder and they held the door for me, versus just like blankly onto, like, walking past it. You know,
Yeah.
that is the real output of it, right? It's that you get to live this better life. And so, sorry to bring up another example, but I had someone that was on the podcast the other day that said, I just had a kid 2 weeks ago and I've been a little behind on exercise, haven't been eating right, haven't been sleeping enough. And man, it's getting to me. And I actually misinterpreted him. I was like, dude, lighten up. Like don't be so hard on yourself. You just had a kid. He goes, no, Sean, exercise, eating right, ice baths, sleeping well. Those things make me feel good. That's why I do them, not like I'm guilty, I'm not doing them. Like I do them because, like, I have a high after them, right? And I was
Yeah.
like, and I was like, oh, I see what you're saying. So it's like, it's actually cool. Like the gratitude journal, it's selfish. Like it's gonna make you experience life better. Why wouldn't you?
100%. Mm. How was that last little sip right there?
It was great. I actually love when it like settles a little on the bottom because then I can just get an extra little splash. Lisa, so before we talked about something that I wanted to circle back, talked about a little bit about the law of attraction,
Hmm.
and how how one of the things that I think is important is, unconditionally to be in the energetic state that you would like to attract, right?
Yep.
Again, it's actually a funny concept because it's a fun practice. Okay, you want to be rich so you could be financially free. So the way to get there, start feeling free now and you'll attract abundance. It's like feeling free feels good. It feels flowy. Like, why wouldn't we want to practice feeling free? But you brought up, I like that you brought it down to earth a little, and you said, like, hey, maybe if you're like homeless and you're really in a tough way, feeling something that's so far from where you are, your body kind of calls bullshit on it, and it might not really do anything. I'd love to just hear you expand on that.
Yeah, I think so I read The Law of Attraction back in God 2005, right? And I got really into it. I'm a visionary. I have big dreams for my life. And I can remember being like, I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. And I was doing fine at the time. Like there's no reason for me to, I mean, I was not by any means, in poverty, but I can remember getting so frustrated because my tendency was to be like, I'm feeling the feelings and why isn't it happening yet? Right? Like, and what I think there's like a lack of education around is when we do affirmations, and I still think affirmations are really important, like I am rich, I am financially independent, all that stuff. If we don't actually then back that mantra or statement up with evidence in our own life of how we are in some way, shape, or form vibrating at that frequency, the gap between where you currently are and where you want to be, your future self, is so vast that the ego kind of like subconsciously shuts down our dreams and we can't stay in that energy. And so one of the things that I really like to do if I'm ever, especially in a slump, right? Is I will like I am healthy, I am, fit, whatever it is, then I actually will write down the evidence of why that statement is true. And anything I can do to collect that evidence to reinforce that feeling will actually then expedite, right, me getting to that point. It will. But if you don't take the time to actually acknowledge all the progress you have made, right? Your ego just shuts it down. That's why a lot of people like mantras don't work. Well, yeah, it's because
You have to act, you have to do something at some point.
you have to do something at some point. So like even for people who maybe right now they're living paycheck to paycheck, but they know that they are capable of so much more, right? How can they say like, "Hey, I am on my way to becoming financially free," and then acknowledge all the progress they've made, or even the fact that like, "Hey, living in the United States right now, even if you're at the bottom of, like in terms of just wealth, you are so much richer than the majority of the world, right? So much. And how can you just say that? Like, holy shit, no, I'm actually doing quite well, like relative to the entire population.
Yeah.
And here are the steps I'm going to continue moving forward, right? But if you don't actually really anchor yourself into believing that statement, I don't actually think you're ever going to get there.
Yeah. You know,
Yes,
I
agree, disagree.
I think there's like a I don't know, there's something beautiful about like getting closer to the action. Um and that I really enjoyed. I'm just trying to think. Oh, T. Harbecker. That's the author. He wrote a book called the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, and what he was talking about was um, every day write evidence down that you're
Yeah.
taking steps closer to your goal. Right. So, for example, something I want to do is write a book called The Happiness Discipline. Grow the podcast and have that be like a really big piece in my life. Well, I got to record a podcast today, right? Like that's what it
Heck yeah.
that's a step on the way, right? I got to, whatever, like, even if it's small, that's one thing that was practical that he has towards that. Another thing that is something that I actually love about him is he says, "Hey, how you do anything is how you do everything," right?
Mhm.
And the it is the exact same, like saying I'm going to work out today and then going to work out is the exact same thing as I'm going to make $100 million and then going to make $100 million, just the size and the magnitude of it. But you know, if you say things and don't do them, you don't have integrity.
Mhm.
Your body knows that. So when you say I'm going to make $100 million, again, that's bullshit. The universe knows it, and you're just like you're speaking on this vibrational level that like your words don't matter as much as like what's underneath them.
This is such an interesting topic. Like, I kind of want to pause here for a little bit because over the last, I've had a lot of unlearning of, I would say, just like programming um, that I think a lot of society actually just gets spoon fed, right? And we tend to think like, oh, let's make $100 million and get rich and like you know, build an empire and all this stuff. I was on that train for a really long time. And there was a constant striving and not actually being in the present moment because of my lofty goals. Like the way I'm built, I just kept seeing I'm not there yet and I'm working so hard and all this stuff. And then one day I'm like, why do I want all this? Like for what purpose? Why do I want to be rich? And like what I boiled it down to is I just want to feel and experience freedom. To me, like, why do I want the five houses? Why do I want to have impact? I want to be able to provide. And like, I narrowed it down to my core values and the actual emotions I want to feel. And when I did that, it went from being an external game, which is outside of my control. I can't control the freaking circumstances of my life. I know I can't, which was hard for me because I'm a fucking control freak. But excuse me, I hope I can cuss on this. I'm like a sailor. I don't know if you know this about me. You might have to bleep that out. I'll try not to drop any more
I,
F-bombs.
I think I've already cussed a few times.
Okay, I'll try not to do F-bombs. I'm a total cursor. What I can control though are my emotions. And how I do that is through perception, right? And so, to the degree that I was so unhappy in my life, it was because I was so focused on what I didn't have and that I wanted, right? I want the million trillion dollars and the title and all this stuff. I was busting my ass and it didn't feel like I was getting any closer. And it was absolutely debilitating. I was high anxiety, but yet everybody saw me as happy and optimistic, right? But inside, I felt like a total failure. And I actually had like a dark night of the soul. I went to a Joe Dispenza retreat and 7 days of like just meditating and doing nothing. And it was beautiful. But when I got home and I got back into my normal everyday life, I actually got to be present and aware of this internal dialogue, and it freaked me out. I was like, oh my God, I'm miserable. And so now for me, it's like, what do I want to feel? That's what I care most about. And peace, love, and joy. Those are my freaking things. Peace, love, and joy. And
Yeah.
I'm in control of that. It's all where I choose to focus my attention. You probably already heard this, but energy flows where attention goes. And if I focus on what I don't have yet, right, I feel scarcity versus, oh my God, like right now I'm living in a 3-bedroom house. I've got 2 children, both my husband and I work from home. I want a bigger house. And so I often am like, I naturally default to, I want more, I want more, I want more. Then I'm feeling lack, right? Instead of, holy shit, I live in San Diego, really close to the beach. I have this beautiful home, a roof over my head, like, and I have to reframe. I have to reframe. And so why I bring this up here is like, we're talking about mantras and all this stuff, which I think is awesome, and like goals. But I've actually like completely shifted how I live my life, which is, it's been very freeing. And it's no longer these external goals, Sean, like truly. I trust that life is going to guide me where I'm meant to be guided. And I'm playing the inner game every freaking day,
Mm.
which is very weird
Uh,
because I've surrendered so much control.
have you read The Surrender Experiment?
Oh yeah, like many times. Like I think Untethered Soul is one of the best books ever written. Um, but I don't
I
think.
haven't read that.
Oh, so Michael Singer, same author. Untethered
Yeah.
Soul. Probably I read it minimum once a year, and every time I read that book, it's like I'm reading a completely new book because you can only like understand what you're ready to hear. And so every time I think I've evolved a little bit more, and it's completely new content for me.
Uh, it will be read before we talk next.
I'm gonna give you a little pop.
I try to balance between self development books, business books. This is one I'll smash tonight, but the 12-week year.
Ooh, I
Um,
like
yeah, just productivity type books, which I do like because they actually allow us to have more time, resources to spend on ourselves. Um, let's talk about balance for a second because I think that's what you were talking about. Um, it's okay to want a bigger house. It's also okay. It's also necessary to be eternally grateful with every cell in your body for what you have now.
yeah.
I think that balance is really key and important. I would say, you know, I want to try to like nail down like some of your thought process. Maybe we could, help people that are balancing that too. Because so for example, like I I think I could live with less than almost anyone I know. I was playing basketball yesterday. I'm back in Wisconsin. Guys I was playing with for a while, and this guy Scoop that we play with was like, "Shit, Sean, you were wearing the same black shorts and white shirts that like because I just have a bag of like three black shorts, like five white shirts. Those are just my basketball clothes. I've been wearing the exact same ones for like 8 years. They're like ripped up And I'm like, dude, it's a shirt. Like, I'm playing basketball in it. What do I need? Just a cotton shirt. Um, but like I also want to have the option to have more because whatever, we don't need to get my personal reasons, but I think with more you can help more people, you can explore the world yourself more, which can allow you to learn and help more people. There's a lot of things you can do. But that balance can be challenging at the same moment to feel grateful and ambitious about the exact same topic.
Yeah.
Do you
Oh,
I
so
guess
true.
I could see by your reaction, it feels like a little of a challenge for you as well.
Um, yeah, and again, I think it's because I'm reprogramming my mind. Like, I think we are told that happiness comes from our external circumstances, but what I believe is happiness is really a choice because you can have two people literally having the same exact experience, and one could be an absolute awe and joy, and the other one could be an absolute like, this is the worst thing that's happened to me. And so, like, I again, and I have by no means figured it out. I've got 40 plus years, like, or maybe call it 35 years of thinking that happiness comes from achieving productivity that's tied to my self-worth, all this stuff. And like, what I'm really working on, my inner work right now, is that I am enough and everything I have is already inside of me right now. All of the tools to literally experience complete ecstasy and joy and bliss is inside, not out here. But we're trained to think it's outside of us. And it absolutely is not. Like, literally, you find out that you got a promotion and you get a raise and you're like, yeah. But I mean, you decided that that was a good thing. You could get fired from your job. Actually, here's a great story. So, I worked at Lululemon. I was there for 7.5 years. In my heart, I knew it was time to move on, and I could not move on. Like, I'm loyal to a fault. Anyway, they announced that they were shutting down one of the brands, and 700 people got laid off in one day. There were people bawling, crying, and I just looked up and I went, "Thank you, thank you." And my friend looked up, she's like, "What?" I'm like, "I just know something better is coming along." And so, and it did. I found freaking Organifi. Like, this is like a true story. Like, literally, people are crying around me, and I just looked up, and I just knew. And so, for me,
Hmm.
again, this is my path. I'm not preaching to anybody. It's just something that I'm on. The more I focus on in here, what has been happened outside, which is beyond my wildest dreams. Like, I I was on my way. I'm a life coach by trade, right? 4 months ago, I got told that I was no longer going to be a life coach and I was moving into partnerships at Organifi I knew nothing about. My ego freaked out, right? Control, control, control. This is not what I want. And I said, you know what? I don't understand the plan, but I trust that this is exactly what I need for my own spiritual growth. And I free fell into life. And literally, I laugh every day because I'm like, I could not have asked for a more fulfilling thing in my career. And I never would have picked this. Never in a billion years.
Isn't
Never.
that beautiful? I've so many reflections, questions, things that are coming up. Um, First of all, when you were told that you were let go, in the moment you said thank you and
Oh,
felt,
literally in the
you
moment.
know, Lisa, that kind of gives me like goosebumps. When I quit my job and started this company 5 years ago,
Mm.
and I landed a client right away that was like a dream client. To this day, it's two times bigger than any client we've ever had.
Holy heck.
And we started growing the company, and at one point, they were about 50% of our revenue and
Okay.
about 85% of my work.
Okay.
And they were high profit, great for the business. When we lost them, in the moment, that is one of the most proud things ever. I was like, damn, I have 85% of my time back. Imagine what I could do with that.
Ooh,
And like that was when it came at a good time. I was reading a lot of books about surrendering, about trusting the process, stoicism. I started I coined, I guess, a quote for me. Everything comes from other people, but basically saying if you can't tell the future, don't judge what's going on in the present moment. And that's like the way that that's like something that I try to live by, because like whether you think, God controls life, or you think karma, like whatever your belief is, to think that like you're just gonna know the exact way to get there is crazy. Like it's crazy. And I think that, have you ever seen The Dark Knight, the Batman movie?
I think I did, but
Oh
mom
man,
mind, I don't remember anything. So
no, you're good. I've seen about 5 movies in my life, and this is one of them. I've seen this one a million times. And like, the Joker talks about how people are freaking out just because they don't like know what's going on, right? He talks about that things aren't going according to plan. Not
yeah,
even that the plan is good; it's just they're not going according to plan.
yeah,
Um, and that like, you know, I think something that I would love to do with my life is raise the level of consciousness to as many people as possible to be able to remain calm when things don't go according to plan.
yeah. And so, what do you do when things don't go according to plan? Is that, do you remind yourself of the mantra, like whatever the advice or the whatever that beautiful saying you came up with, like if you can't predict the future, don't judge the present. I love that. Is that
Yeah,
what's your process when things, because we're human, right? And I think our
yeah.
natural default is make the plan, execute, get what we like, input equals output, but that's
On to the next.
yeah. So what do you do?
um, so I take a belly breath, take a
Mm,
big breath.
mm,
Something that I've realized is there are so many hacks and tips and tricks for everything. So what I try to do is I try to think of like really fundamental things, and I've realized starting to like breathe in and out of my nose, slow and long through my stomach, and becoming in tune with my like feeling sensations, your
yeah,
gut feeling in your body. That is one of those like fundamental things that like fixes quite a lot of situations. It
sure.
basically just brings you back into the moment. Um, Something else I use that for is like difficult decisions, is just like instead of thinking through them, my favorite course in college was logic. I like to like map out the reason that something was right, that this decision is going to be right. And in reality, it's like, like just feel in your body. And I was working with a life coach, and so I had this big trip plan, but you want to talk about a first world problem. I had like a big 3-week trip to Africa plan, but I was going to have to make sacrifices for it, like financial, but like also like missed opportunities, missed time with people, missed time from work, just whatever. There's trade for everything. And he goes, Sean, I'm going to ask you questions, and I need you to act out without like talking, um, what you feel in your body and how you would answer. And he was like, act out the emotions in your body when you think about this 3-week trip to Africa. And the what I did was I remember to this day, because he said you have to do it quick, right? So I wasn't thinking about it, I just did it. I shook fists, and I like kind of like bit my teeth. I was like, and he was like, that seems like a pretty clear no, huh? And I was like,
Yes,
and it's like
yes,
and then when he said that, I was like, yeah. And then he was like this. He knows basketball is my shit. So he was like, how do you feel about like playing like going to play basketball tomorrow? And I was just like, I just kind of like gave him like a smooth smile and thumbs up. He was like, it's a pretty obvious yes. So what he challenged me to do, which again, going back full circle to this like gratitude discussion in the beginning, one of the wisest things that like I've heard from you was that you actually wrote the stuff down. You didn't just say like, I'll think about it. And when you wrote it down, like something that I would recommend that people do is feel different sensations in their body and actually label them and label them what you think they mean. You know, it doesn't have to be one word, it could be a little sentence, but like, you know, I know that like tingling in my tummy is actually like excitement. Which, yeah, you're a little scared, but that's more like excitement. And I know when I don't like things, I personally feel it in my hands.
Interesting.
Like I definitely feel it in my hands, definitely feel it in my chest. Like just again, just general negative emotions. I also get happy feet. Excitement also, my feet start buzzing.
You said,
And
what do you
it's
do? Like,
funny
like
because like,
tapping? Do you like tapping when
oh,
you're happy?
for sure, like tapping or just kind of like my feet just don't want to stop. Um, but it's funny because like I would never ever take the time to like pinpoint emotions and like what they are. Uh, and yeah, doing that helped so much. My buddy called me yesterday, and he's about to start a business with this guy that I know, and he goes, "Would you start a business with him?" And I was in the gym and I was like, give me a second. And he didn't see what I was doing, but I would just like close my eyes, took a couple breaths. And like, again, like I just kind of felt heavy in the chest, like kind of clenching here. I'm like, dude, no, I would not start. Like, cause I don't know. I think it just it wouldn't feel right.
Do know though, it sounds like you've tuned in and become fluent in body talk. And like, I do believe that our body and the sensations we feel are like the vocabulary, right, of the mind and like subconscious thoughts. And you can call it your higher self, intuition, but we're always so busy and like living out of your logical mind. We don't slow down enough to pay attention to what our body is trying to tell us. So I love
Oh,
that you
yeah.
already have deciphered, you know, I've got nervous hands or whatever, happy feet. This is like anxiousness. Like I would say for people, whenever I used to life coach and people were feeling just like a lot of times it was almost so much emotion, they wouldn't even know what to do. I would ask them, like, where are you feeling it in your body? We name it, name the sensation, right? The body sensation. And then I say, okay, now what emotion would you tie to that? And like also rate it, like on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at? Just so that they start, like, number one, it brings them into the moment, like you said, the same way the breath does, where you can, I think, access your intuition. And so we just have to slow down enough, come into the present moment, and then I think we will get the answer. But most people are
Heck yeah.
they're here, 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 here. So I love that.
Absolutely. I, I love the way you said fluent in the language. I could tell he was a life coach. I could tell you're a life coach. He goes, like one of our first meetings, he's like, Sean, you're going to learn a new language with me. I'm like, I'm not spending my time learning new language. It's like, I don't know what he's talking about, but I'm not in. Um, and when he told me that, I thought it was pretty cool. And I actually, so this kind of goes back, like if I can explain a little bit about like the happiness discipline. I think I'm fluent, but I don't think I built discipline around it. I
Okay.
I almost always just go back to logically thinking about things that are very simple decisions when you just breathe through it. Um, and that's what the happiness discipline is training yourself over and over. And maybe for me, it'd be like a 5 time a day intervention because, we're moving quick. We're like 5 times a day. I'm like, all right, what's my biggest work decision right now? How does it feel in my gut? And if I probably did that 5 times a day for 30, 45 days and then picked like a less rigorous way to maintain it, like build the habit and then maintain it, I'm going to do that. I
There you go. You see
just,
accountability right there. You got it. You got it.
yeah, I'm
Five
going to
times a day,
definitely.
you're gonna just pause, right? And are you gonna write it down? Like, committed to writing it down? Or is it more just checking in?
I think it would be. I like alarms on my phone. Unfortunately, during the workday, my phone's always in my hand.
Yeah.
So 5 times on the phone that just says breathe and decide. And like I'm making this up on the go, but like I'm always trying to make business decisions that like could probably be made faster and better. Um, if I breathe through them. But like the way I think about it is take 30, 45 days, intense, rigorous, build this habit like you were doing with the writing down, and then think about something that's more integrated with my life. Like yours is send someone a text, for the grateful thing, I think that's like the way to like keep your maintenance up on the discipline that you built.
Do you know what's really funny? And like again, I'm gonna just share where I'm at right now, and it's so different from who I was 3 years ago, right? So you mentioned something about how habits take you kind of out of the present moment a little bit and into the subconscious because you're just automatically doing the things, right? On repeat, on repeat. And I felt myself get a little like, oh, like I had a body reaction to that. I'm like, I don't know if that's in alignment with where I'm at in my life right now. And before, like very regimented, like I said, gratitude journal every morning, da, 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 da. And what I had a little download here, because I do think discipline is so important because it's mindfulness, right? It's focusing on what you want. And I just had this download because I'm reading a book called A Course in Miracles. If anybody has read it, it is a gnarly spiritual text. Okay. Like next level. It's the only book I ever read now. Like literally I've front to back, front to back, front to back. But the book says our one function while we are on this planet is happiness. And so the download came as I was trying to digest everything you're saying and like these practices and these habits and these regimens and all that. And I was like, ooh, like for me, every day I kind of wake up and I check in with myself. And my discipline is what can bring me the most joy and happiness today. And it changes from day to day, genuinely changes from day to day. And so one of the things that I'm unraveling, unpacking, just kind of like seeing how I feel is this idea of habits versus like my one commitment is happiness. And it looks different every day. Some days happiness is literally sitting on the freaking couch and watching Netflix. Like that is what my soul is craving right now. And so this is just something I want to throw at you and just get your thoughts on it because I know it's very different from how I lived my life for many years. It was that
Achieve, achieve, achieve.
and like do the things and like autopilot your life. I've read Atomic Habits and every book on habits, and like I've tried to regiment my life, and I can honestly say I am probably one of the happiest people I know. Granted, I have shit days, right? But overall, I am ecstatic about life 90% of the time, if not more. If not more, like what the hell, like pinching myself. And I do think it's because I've let go of so much control, and I've been so much more disciplined about being in the moment. And my number one habit is happiness.
The happiness discipline.
Yeah, dude, that's what it was
Let's go.
like. It.
Lisa,
Yeah, I get
Lisa,
it.
I have this. I'm running the partnership program for a company called the Happiness Discipline. I'm wondering if you want to
Hey,
join.
bring me on, bring me on. Why not? Because I have so much.
We got our first ambassador, baby. Lisa, I couldn't agree more. Right, like I've heard that like our point of being on this planet is to use our senses to basically, like appreciate what's around us, which sounds like a definition of happiness, right? And um, pr- pr- that's that is literally the overarching theme of the podcast, the book, everything. And it's not that's totally not meant to promote the book or the podcast, even though I think promoting things that are good is an awesome thing to do. It's why I'm in marketing. Um, I I more say that like we're aligned on that, and I just want people to have clarity around that. That like understand what makes you happy in the moment or what builds the skill of happiness, and do those things. Waking up at 4:15 does both, makes me happy and builds the skill of happiness. In the moment, yeah, that alarm goes off. I need 5 minutes to like shake the cobwebs. But then, like those quiet hours in the morning makes me happy. Also, it builds the skill of I do what I say I'm going to do, right? I have integrity. I prioritize myself. That makes me happy. Like that's the takeaway here. And I mean, there's no better place to wrap it up than that, because we're saying the same thing and we're on the same vibe there. And Lisa, I want to tell you, I think I'm around some cool people. I think through the podcast, through my work, like it's pretty awesome who I get to be around. And I would definitely say you're one of the happier people. So I say that as like a totally like a compliment, not something that like happened to you, that like you did, and like, you know what, no one's dealt the exact same hand, right? I'm not here to say you had it harder, you had it easier. It doesn't matter. You were dealt the hand you were dealt, and you did what you did with it, and you did a good job from my point of view.
Thank you. Thank you. It was such a pleasure being here. And I'm sure we could go for like probably 25 more hours and rap about all of this. But I think what you're doing is so incredible. And, I want to close out with something that I think, take it with a grain of salt. Peter Crone. Have you heard of Peter Crone? Peter Crone.
No.
This guy has been instrumental in my growth and my mindset shift. But what I think I learned from him was how our mind works, right? And the mind is usually controlled by the ego, which is rooted in fear, right? Well, namely insecurity, scarcity, and inadequacy, right? So if we are not conscious, insecurity, inadequacy, and scarcity rule our mindset, are there in the driver's seat. And so as I've become very present to that and have become aware of my inner dialogue and notice how I habitually always default to those, it's been the rewiring of, we mostly focus on what we don't want to have happen, right? That's fear based, what we don't want, what we don't want. If we are not actually saying, this is what I want, right? This is what I want. And then at the same time, or something better life, right? Like, this is what I want, and here's why, because I want to feel these emotions and all that. We are going to live in a perpetual state of defense. And so, for anybody on this call who's like, really like, yes, I want to be happy. Yes, I want to be happy. I would say, to your point, write down what it is you want to create in your life. And you can focus first on the external, right? I think we're here to serve people ultimately. So if you can tie in how this then would impact humanity or your family or whatever, doesn't have to be on a grand scale, and then break that down into what feelings and emotions would having that grand vision of your life give you, and then start cultivating tiny practices of how you can feel those feelings now in any small degree. And we talked about that, right? Like, if I want to feel financially free, right, or that I'm having a big impact in the world, how can you recognize right now, today, the impact you're making, even if it's on the small. Smiled at the barista and asked them how their day was, and she smiled back, holy fuck, like, I just impacted that person's day in a positive way. So that would be my thing. I'm going to leave with
Hell
that
yeah.
forever. Thank you for having me on. Sorry for the F-bomb.
Lisa, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a happy day.
Thank you. I will. You too.
Hey, thank you for watching today's episode. If you got something out of this, it would mean so much if you could just take a second and give us a rating on whatever platform you're watching it on. And it would mean so much to the world if you could just find one person that you think this message resonates with, and you can share that with them. Thank you so much for your support. Looking forward to share the next episode with you.